Welcome to the Breaking Average podcast, the podcast designed to challenge you to break the mold that average has on the world. Each episode offers insights directly from those who choose to break average every day. Now for the latest insights, here are your hosts, Paul Gustafson and Barry Smith.
Welcome to the Breaking Average podcast. I'm here with Barry Smith. Barry, I'm loving this, man. Can't wait to dive into this discussion. How are you?
I'm doing well, Paul. Always good to be here with you. Always put a smile on my face, man. Just need to see you in the other box, and life is good.
Yeah, and it's fun just to do this. Of course, we're doing it virtually, and Barry is in Florida. I am in Virginia. But Barry, you and I have had some fun over the years, and we got to know each other. And I think it was 2012. So, I think maybe let's just take a quick minute just to give everybody a little taste of our connections and how we developed a relationship. And then we'll dive in. So you joined the John Maxwell team in 2012, and I had already joined a year, maybe 6 months earlier. And I'm guessing it was 2012. It may have been the end of 2011. When did you join?
It was 11. It was July of 11. July, I think 15, 2011. But I was just right kind of at the border, right there at the edge when they were filling up the events for that August. And so I missed out being at the initial event, but I was definitely there in February. And that's where I believe you and I met, February 2012 in West Palm Beach.
West Palm. It was an incredible experience. I remember the 2012 just as much as I remember the 2011. And from there, you and I connected. I was doing I still do this, right? We pick a book a month, we go through it, we have some fun, we invite some people on. We were doing Sunday night calls. You joined in on some book studies. I think our first major book that we did was Platform.
Yeah, Michael Hyatt.
And we had Michael on a call. Michael Hyatt, come join us again, man. I'm praying for you. I know that you had a little bit of heart concerns there, but you're good. Love to have you back. But yeah, that was great, that connection with Michael Hyatt. And we've had others, David Horsager. And you, what was really cool, Barry, is that you were breaking down these books and you were writing at that time blogs on all these great books that were coming out. The Dan Pink book, Sell is Human. So many good ones.
Yeah, we definitely had some good, and what an amazing experience to connect with so many authors. We didn't get everyone, but we got a lot of them in there. But it was really meaningful to, basically spend 4 weeks, going into the book and being able to connect, typically at the end there get the author on with us. I mean, really brought the book to life and great insight. Typically we were looking at leaders and those that were writing about leadership and communication. And it was just a great opportunity. And who'd have thunk, right? Who'd have thunk 10 years later, we'd be back at it in kind of a different platform, but still, you and I both know we're still doing our book a month. And, it's just a great way to stay current with, current thought leaders.
Yeah, think about it, right? So a book a month, and you and I, we connect on Wednesday mornings, have some fun with that with a bunch of other guys. And it's just a great experience. If you haven't done it, if you're watching, listening, and you love books, but you've not done a mastermind, you've not found another group of people who are like-minded and value the values that come out of that book, try it. It is just an amazing experience to be able to hear from other people. What do you love about masterminds the most?
I think the collaboration. I know one thing that's been important to my personal and professional growth is having somebody there that I can trust, that I allow to challenge my thinking. And we certainly do that often. We need that. We need that because we look through life through our set of lenses, and that's it. All we see is what's right in front of us. And so when you got a good group of guys, gals, whatever it looks like, just to be able to collaborate, as we like to say around here, believe what you believe, but think different thoughts. And that's where some of the magic comes from. It's just different ideas going all the way back to Napoleon Hill, over 100 years now, I think, ago. Just saying, you get two or more people together, and you get that third mind. Well, you get 8 people, 10 people. Just a lot of good can come out of that. So I think just a collaborative nature. It's just an environment. I know you've never heard me say this before, but environment conducive to growth. But it is, I like to be aligned with folks that, kind of share my values. We talked about that a little bit on a previous podcast, but it's just a great opportunity to connect. Keeps me sharp, keeps me focused, and I like the camaraderie, man, for our family.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of fun. It is family. I was thinking as you were sharing, if you think about it, you do the math. We've been doing this for really since I've known you. So if you count those 11 years and you count the number of books that we could do in a year, we've done, gosh, just over 130 books.
Wow.
Right? 130 books. Now, when you do one book a month, it doesn't seem like a lot, but over 11 years, you get to 132, and that's pretty significant. That's a lot of knowledge, and it's shared knowledge because we're talking about it. We're talking about how we apply it, how we use it, how we leverage it. But there's one book that we didn't do, but we kind of did. You've already mentioned it. It was Napoleon Hill stuff, right?
Oh.
And so what you and I did was we used a little bit of Napoleon Hill. This is back a few years ago, like, gosh, it was probably 2013, I think it was. It was right at the beginning of 2013. And we started off with the Napoleon Hill book. But then we went to something that you and I talked about before we turned on the record, right? The Men Who Built America. Yeah. And we tied that to what Napoleon Hill was talking about in there. And we pulled it alive, right? We discovered the environments that these men and women, mostly men in this case, were creating and how it was affecting and influencing everybody else. And what's really powerful about it was they had to deal with resistance.
Yeah, definitely.
And we're going to talk about the power of resistance today, because there really is some impactful things. They say that diamonds just don't become diamonds, right? It takes a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
It starts off as coal and then it becomes a diamond. And maybe you're in a situation where you're dealing with some struggles, some challenges, and you're feeling some resistance. So we're going to try to encourage you today and really talk about, Barry, I want to talk about why resistance is so important, because I think it's the one thing we don't want, right? We don't like, oh man, more resistance, more struggle, more challenges, more things to endure. But why is resistance so important? Start with that.
Yeah, I think because that's how you strengthen anything. You bring up a great example, the diamond and the pressure it takes to do that. There's resistance in there, but I think about, athletes and weight training and they've even call it now resistance training, right? And that's what's required to build muscles, whether it's a physical muscle, a mental muscle. You got to have that resistance to push further. It doesn't happen without that. It's just like water running downhill. There's nothing really special about that. It's just gravity doing its thing. If we want to grow, if we want to change, you need that resistance. Make it more than what naturally is going to happen with no effort. And I think that's it. The resistance requires effort. Effort is how we grow.
Yeah, I would say if you're dealing with resistance, ask this question: what is this resistance teaching me? What is it that I'm going through right now, as much of a struggle as it is? And we're not trying to make this Pollyanna, but what's the other side of this? What's the benefit to the resistance that you're feeling? I love Einstein's quote. He says, "In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity." The question is in the middle of that challenge, that resistance that you're feeling, what is the opportunity? Maybe there is one. And some of the greatest, look, I'm kind of in this space as a chief technology officer. One of the greatest things about innovations, they all are birthed from some kind of challenge. The greatest innovations come from a need, necessity, the mother of invention, right? So I think that's important to understand that and to think through that.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that's I bring up the example of physical training, right? But it really is. It's mental, it's emotional. The resistance makes us stronger, and I think the analogy with the physical part of it is the easiest one to understand, because we can realize if it's resistance, if we're working on weights or whatever it is, it's easy to see that that's how you get stronger. But the same thing applies again, mentally, emotionally. We've got to be strengthening those muscles, and it takes resistance to do that. If I just go and raise my arm and move my legs around, there's no resistance there. There's no gain in that. And I think the same thing applies. When you think about the example you use of the men who built America: Rockefeller, Carnegie, J.P. Morgan, Vanderbilt. These guys, just the resistance they had to face in business, right? Become the moguls they did, and then they become those moguls, and then then the whole different kind of resistance starts, and there they are faced with making big decisions, and they were equipped to do it. Maybe they didn't make all decisions that we would agree with, but it was that process of living, basically, for those guys, a life of resistance that equipped them to get to that space and make decisions to continue to move their businesses forward and look at the family legacies that are still there today. And so clearly there's been continued resistance in that, and this is the place we got to be. You got to be a place. You got to get out of your comfort zone. There's no resistance in your comfort zone. And sitting in an easy chair, no resistance.
Yeah,
there's no growth.
Yeah, I love this take. I hope folks are really capturing this, and really you've said a lot there that I think is important. One, think about it, right? Weight training. People go to the gym, and those that come out the strongest 9 months later are the ones that were willing to deal with the resistance.
Yeah.
There are others who will join the gym in January and see it 4 times, and that's it.
Celebrate National Quit Day a couple of weeks later.
Right? But there are others who will join that gym, and maybe they already did. I tell you what, if you want to do this right, don't wait till January. Why wait to January?
Yeah.
Why wait to January? You don't need resolutions to change your life. You just need resistance. Just go.
That's it.
Go do it. And with resistance comes growth. With growth comes change. With change comes impact and influence and leadership. And you can't get to breaking average without resistance, guys.
Well stated.
You just can't. So I would encourage you guys to, and this isn't just about getting into the gym, although that's important. I think we all should. But this is realizing, you know what? I need to stretch myself. Yeah. I need to get out of my comfort zone. And you look back, the men who built America, well, guess what? America's not done being built. Maybe you have an opportunity to do something too. Maybe all of us. Barry, maybe you do. Maybe I do. So let's go out there, man. Let's figure this out. This isn't just soft skill leadership. This is essential skill leadership. So let's figure this thing out. So I love this. All right. I want to talk about Murphy's Law.
Hey, well, so I've been well acquainted with that this month. So I feel like I'm an expert in the topic. How can I help? The doctor is in.
Let's talk about it. Let's be real. Let's not, again, I want to really get to this, because if we're going to talk about resistance, let's talk about the real crap that happens in our life.
Yeah.
All right. You and I mean, we talked even before we hit the record, some of the stuff, the challenges that we're going through. Right. I've got, hopefully our dog will make it through, but we're dealing with some stuff there. Yeah. And we've all had stuff. It happens. Murphy happens. And the way Murphy, right, I'll let you describe Murphy's Law, and then we'll kind of unpack different ways it plays out. So describe how you see Murphy's Law.
Yeah, well, in short, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. And, I don't know where that saying originally came up from. I probably want to Google that afterwards, after the recording here, and figure that out. But sometimes life just deals us that. Sometimes Murphy shows up And in my case, has been hanging around with me for most of October. And it's just big things. My wife and I both getting COVID, my computer crashing. Those were definitely two of the bigger things that have impacted this month for me. But it's even little things, that the things, the small things break, or you miss an appointment, or, you're just overwhelmed and things don't go right, and what I've found, and because I've been talking to people about this, I have my coach, and I certainly, as a coach, do a lot of coaching and mentoring every month, and this is not a new topic. I was telling you before the call starts, I'm actually hosting a call with the Maxwell community tomorrow morning, and the topic is overcoming the overwhelm. And it's life. Life is full of Murphy. It's full of overwhelm. And so it really comes down to this. It's not going to change. It's always going to be there. And I've always kind of, questioned, why do people, myself included, right? Why do we just freak out when everything goes wrong? What happens in our lives that we could say, oh, I never thought that would happen? Well, things happen, right? It's life. And so what I've been really focused on the last few days, interesting timing, is what do I need to do to get back to where I've felt successful? Where was I when those little things weren't getting me down and beating me up? And what I've come to realize, at least for me, and at least in recent times, is, if I turn back the clock earlier this year, I had a consistent process in the morning, get out, walk, kind of go through my to-do list. And on my to-do list, this was something I just realized this week. What I didn't realize with my to-do list is that just knocking those things out on a daily basis, and it might even not be a big deal. It might be, pay the credit card bill, or, get something at the store, or mail a package, right? Mail a book. Maybe I had a book to mail. But what I realized in conversation with my coach was, just getting those little things done was success.
Yeah.
It was victory. And so, back up the bus to pre-October, and I was getting out, getting my walk in, getting my, get back, get some to-dos done. And every day I was winning. Every day I had little victories. Again, that doesn't have to be big things. But in my mind, that felt good, right?
Yeah.
Now get into, going through COVID, and then the computer's down, and, it's just like there's no wins. And that's on me, right? That's 100% on me. But when I'm trying to figure out, how do I get out of this funk, right? We've all heard that. I'm in a funk. I'm stuck. How do you get out of that? And for me, the realization for me was, dude, go back to getting some wins. We did a book, speaking of books and reading, we did a book earlier this year, you and I and some other guys, The Gap in the Game by Dan Sullivan.
Yeah.
And I realized, hadn't even thought about it. And I really, I've recommended that book, recommend it right here, The Gap in the Game by Dan Sullivan. Great book. What I realized is this month I've been living in the gap. I really have. And so, as of 2 days ago, my whole attitude has changed. I'm still hopefully have now taken care of the last issue to have my computer running back properly. And it just, I'm in just a way better space. So it was just that little thing of getting back to a process that I was doing, get some wins every day, get some victories. And it just changed my whole mindset. So Murphy, come on, man. I'm ready for you now, right? I know he's coming.
He's there.
And that's the thing. He's there. He's around all of us, sometimes more than other, but he's going to be there. So what are you going to do when he shows up? You Dr. Henry Cloud, you get what you create, you get what you allow.
Yeah. He's lurking. Murphy's lurking.
Murphy is lurking always.
And, it's going to happen, but Murphy doesn't have to win. He doesn't have to win. In fact, he thinks he's there because he doesn't want to lose, and he's going to shake it as much as he can and try to rattle you. So if you want to think of it as a figurative being, think of it as if Murphy was cast in a movie, he might, be personified as Darth Vader or Agent Smith. That's probably even a better one, right? From the Matrix, right? Yeah. And just around the corner there, there's Agent Smith again, coming at me, trying to trip me up.
By the way.
Yeah, no relationship to Barry Smith. This is the altar smith, right? So yeah. Um, so let's talk about this. And first of all, I love The Gap in the Gain. Great book, great reference. If you've heard of that book, or if you've heard others talk about it, it's true. It's a good book. I would say, think about it. Are you living in the gap, or are you living in the gains? And if you're dealing with Murphy's law, if you believe in that, man, eh, you know, anything that can go wrong will go wrong. If that's your mindset, no, maybe you should change that a little bit. Maybe you can say, you know what, Murphy's Law, I get it. Anything that can go will go wrong, but I'm going to change it. Anything that can go wrong, I'm going to go through. I'm going to keep on walking. What was the Churchill quote that you shared a couple of episodes back?
Yeah, when you're going, pardon the language here, but when you're going through hell, the only thing you can do really is keep going. That's it. That's the only choice you have.
Keep going. Keep going. So, so much to talk about. I share, in a book that I've got coming out, I talk a little bit about this whole idea, and in there, and I won't speak to it too long, but I had a bike ride trip experience, and I've had a bunch of these, but this one was a kind of a interesting one where I was riding a bike and the chain kept, the chain ring was not working right. The chain broke, and it was just Murphy coming at me, right? One thing after another. And in the process, I'll just kind of share this. My saddlebag with all my gear, things flew out of there, and I didn't know it as I was riding. Went to ride back down at the end of the day, and the keys to the vehicle that was going to get us back to Colorado to Denver the next day, they were gone. Didn't have them, and I realized it. I needed to go down because my family's waiting for me. But if I went down there, it would have been worse. There's no way we would have gotten back. Not only that, I had my ID card. It was gone. All of it was gone. So I had to work through that process and really kind of walk through it. And here's what helped me. I'll just get to the chase. As I'm walking through there feeling desperate, like, holy cow, wanting to curse up a storm, I got to be honest with you. I realized, you know what? I was up there for a reason. I still had hope that I was going to find it. So while I ditched the bike and I walked that trail, going back and forth, looking for it, and starting to find those pieces, those missing pieces, it was hope. It was really hope that kind of carried me through that, despite Murphy trying to do its very best to tear me up. And I found my keys, I found my ID, and I got back on that bike and I rode down that hill. And it was one of the greatest moments, greatest bike rides I ever had afterwards, right? After I found all that stuff. And it made me realize, you've got to go through it. You got to go through it. And from that, I'll just share this real quick. Murphy's Law, we've heard that many times. I came up with an acrostic that I think is pretty powerful. I'm just trying to pull up my notes on it. So think about Murphy. If you look at the letters, Murphy's Law, this encourages me, actually. So whenever I'm feeling, I'm like, okay, Murphy's Law. I'm going to spell it out. Murphy's Law, momentum under resistance. It's like a question. Like, momentum under resistance. Persevere with hope. You'll see your leadership at work. So when you feel the momentum, all right, or excuse me, let me rephrase that. When you feel the resistance, realize that's pushing against the momentum that you're trying to move forward with. All right. So that's momentum under resistance. Anytime you feel Murphy, that's momentum under resistance. But if you persevere with hope, you'll see your leadership at work. And that's just a powerful mind trick, just to kind of think through it. Like, oh, okay, Murphy, I see you over there lurking in the corner. I know what you're trying to do, but you know what? I'm just going to persevere. Because I believe I can get through that. I believe I'm going to find a way through my broken keyboards, through the COVID, through all the mess that's happening there. I'm just going to keep going, because you're not going to live to see the next day. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to get through it, and you'll see your leadership at work. So,
well, I love that.
Yeah.
Very impressive, by the way. I mean, you must have stayed up all night coming up with that. It's powerful.
Well, I mean, it was a story years ago. It was my first. I'll be honest with you. We talked about how we connected, Maxwell stuff. This was my first IMC speech in February, the year that you joined. I gave this speech there.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I pulled it from that. So
I love it. I love it. No, I mean, what
yeah.
it comes down to is making decisions. I was choosing, you mentioned earlier about something to the effect of focusing and our energy and so forth. And I think with my focus on some of those negative things, like you manifest that, right? You go back, even Napoleon Hill teaches on this, that what we manifest, our mind will manifest. And
Yep.
we've all heard the expression where your focus goes, your energy flows. So when you're thinking about, your mindset is what's going to go wrong next. I mean, here we go. That's
Yep.
what you're going to produce. That's what you're going to see. That's what your focus is on. That's where your energy's flowing. And so it's decisions, just like you just pointed out. It's like, I'm not going to let Murphy get me down. I'm going to be more powerful than he is, and I'm going to find a way, to punch through this. And it just makes all the difference in the world. It sounds easy on paper, right? Well, you just got to decide to do the right thing and be positive. Well, I think we all know that there's times in our life when it's like, man, you just feel beat up, wiped out. Why me? Is it just going to keep going like this? When am I going to get a win? Well,
Yeah.
create the win, right? Go out and create the win.
Yeah. Create the win. Sometimes, Barry, don't we want, we're going for the big win, the touchdown, when all we need is the first down.
Yeah.
Right. I watch, whether it's Saturday or Sunday football, you see it happen all the time where a team that's maybe down by a couple scores and they're like, oh, we'll just need to strike it. We need we just need to do a big one. And they end up not being able to do it.
Yep.
Right. Shorten the step, just figure out, okay, don't go for the big touchdown. You'll get there. Go for the first down. And I think it's pretty amazing when you start to see somebody just slowly whittle their way back. Years ago, the Nationals, they're not very good in baseball right now, but they were in a hard place. They weren't doing too good. They were like third in their division. And they found a way and they climbed back. How do they do it? One game at a time.
Yeah.
And they came back. They got to the World Series. They won the World Series. It's one of the, I love stories of perseverance, and there's many of them. That was one that I liked a lot. So, but it's really, really a message for all of us. Just keep going. Just keep finding that way. Like, what's the Pixar movie? Just keep going. That's what we got to do sometimes.
Yeah.
Just keep going.
It is. And so it's the only way through. I mean, just if you sit there and wait for things to change, good luck, right?
Yeah.
So you got to make those cognitive decisions to say, look, I'm going. And if it might hurt a little more on the way, that's the way it is, but that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to get this thing done. I'm going to get myself turned around. And that's what we got to do. We're going to face it. We're going to face that resistance, right? That resistance is going to come in some way, shape, or form every day we're alive. And so what do we do when it gets there? We got to overpower it, push through it.
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool how we're talking about resistance today when last time we talked about resilience. And I think maybe it was good that we teed up the resilience. And guys, if you haven't listened to or watched our resilience discussion with Dave Cornell, you got to go back and watch that. So powerful. And the truth of it is why do we need resilience? Well, the reason why is because we're all dealing with some challenges and struggles. It happens to all of us. You're not alone. If you feel like, oh man, nobody knows what's going on in my world. Nobody's experienced what I'm experiencing. Well, maybe not exactly that, but trust me, there are a lot of folks that have gone through some hardships, difficulty, and challenges.
Sure.
A lot. And recognize that, you know what, there's resistance that's happening, but keep moving forward. So I love that. And I think it was Dave that said, I wrote it down, adversity doesn't define you. Right. He says adversity doesn't make you. Adversity is what reveals you.
Yeah.
Right. So think about the adversity that you're dealing with, and other people are watching.
Yeah.
And how you deal with that adversity, even if there's moments in the middle of it where you were kind of like a little child, right? It happens to us. And we have that little temper tantrum, whatever it is. Don't beat yourself up. just realize, okay, no, I'm going to lead myself through this. I'm going to lead myself. The only way is I've got to lead myself.
Yeah.
And I love what we talked about in Peak Mind, especially recently when, Barry and I are going through a book. We just finished a book called Peak Mind. And she talks about decentralizing yourself as you're reflecting on your experiences, because sometimes we see ourselves, especially real time in the experience that we're in, and we feel like we are the center of the universe at that moment. Think of this as a video game, kind of like first person point of view, and you see everything and you feel it. Well, wait a minute. What if you can step away from being that first person point of view, or you decentralize yourself and you look at it from a little bit further away?
Yeah.
And you see yourself, you're not in yourself, you see yourself, and you're like, oh, wait a minute. Oh, and it goes back to kind of like the beach ball concept.
Yeah.
Oh, I see oh, you know what? I know how to steer through it. It's kind of like armchair quarterback, right? When we're watching, we kind of see like, oh, why don't they do that? Well, armchair your life.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the concept. Thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I agree. I think it goes back to, your comments earlier about a mastermind group, and how I responded that say it's a different perspective. And I think that kind of connects with what you're talking about, the decentralization, because we need that. Again, this is why it's important to have people in your life that will challenge your thinking, that stinking thinking, right? You need to check up from the neck up. You get some stuff going on here. And so it's important to have, those type of people in your life to help you through that. Because look, we can't succeed in this life on our own. As tough as we might think we are, we need that camaraderie. We need friends. We need family. We need people to pick us up when we're down, and we're all going to go through those times.
Yeah.
For me, it was my coach this week said, look, and I'm like, I was just stuck. Yeah. I was just stuck. And yet I had answers right in front of me. I had the gap in the gain. I had my to-do list. I had those wins that I used to get, and right there in front of me, nothing rocket science about that. Just a simple, consistent, positive steps that were helping me, deal with Murphy. And then they were gone. I was so focused on, the things that were happening in my life that I was allowing to creep in and impact me, that it was gone. So you get that conversation, all of a sudden, oh yeah, I've been living in the gap, not the gain.
Yeah.
And create those wins to help you move forward. We just have to be. That's why, coaches, there's I believe, any coach needs a coach. And as good as I might think I am at coaching, I know I can't do it on my own. The value of having someone there to just, say, you sure about that? Tell me more. Help me understand that. It's very powerful when you actually do it out loud. I can have conversations with myself all day, but there's not the power that you have in a coaching conversation. And I know a lot of our listeners are coaches or do coaching within their work and their profession. It's just a powerful process to help people get unstuck, and we all get stuck. I mean, it's just going to happen. It's the nature of life.
Yeah. There's so much that comes. I love what you're sharing there. And an image came to mind as you were sharing, and it's Abraham Lincoln. Right. And we know, unfortunately, the way his life passed, but think of the impact that he made before his life passed. Yeah. And think of the challenges that he dealt with. Many. I mean, it wasn't like he got into the presidency super easy. No, he struggled to get there. He struggled as a young kid just to get an education, and he sought to be growth minded, which I think is huge. It's important. And so he was a reader. They say readers are leaders, and he went through some challenges, a lot of challenges, family wise, political wise. It didn't look like he was going to be much of anything in the political world, but he kept fighting through it. There are a lot of Murphys that he had to face, a lot of Murphys, and he ended up, I think he's one of the greatest presidents of all time.
Yeah, definitely.
You think about what he did for our country, with the Civil War and everything else. I mean, it was pretty huge, and he united our country. east to west, people don't realize that he was instrumental in connecting the railroad across, from the Atlantic to the Pacific.
Yep.
And finding ways to make that happen, because there was a lot of competing companies potentially trying to find their way to do it. And he got them all on the same page with the standard side. It's an amazing story. When we talk about Men Who Built America, Lincoln may get some credit for that.
Well, he was a person of influence, right?
Yeah.
He may not have been Vanderbilt. He may not have been, the guy laying the tracks. He may have not have been Carnegie, the guy, building the iron, building the rails.
Yeah.
But he was a man of influence, that would just look, and make decisions based on what he thought would be better for our country. And yeah, I mean, incredible story. That's just another great movie. It's something we should revisit maybe.
I love that movie. Yeah, that's such a good movie. Here's another funny movie: Steve Martin and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Right? Have you ever seen that movie?
Yes.
Talk about Murphy in that one, right? It's such a crazy movie. If you haven't seen it, maybe I'd watch it somewhere between Thanksgiving and Christmas. Okay, so you're getting close, and so it might be a good movie watch if you just want a little bit of humor. Is it Jim Candy?
John
Candy. I knew I was saying it wrong. John Candy, phenomenal actor. Unfortunately, he's passed. Steve Martin. They're both businessmen on traveling, and they're trying to get home and they got some struggles to get home. The flights aren't working, the trains, and everything. But it's so cool because if you just stay the course and watch that, you'll see Steve finally gets with his family, and it's a spoiler alert if you hadn't seen it, but I just love how they pivot through the challenges and they have to change their path and lead through adversity. They don't give up.
Yeah.
They find victory, and
That's a good word.
Yeah. You find victory. When you don't give up, you're going to find victory. If you give up,
it's there somewhere. Sometimes we just got to go a little further than we think.
Yeah. If you give up, you're not going to find the victory. But if you don't give up, it's there. It's there. Dude, we can keep talking about this, man, but let's land the plane. Let's share a tip and challenge for everybody. Let's encourage folks today. I just want to encourage them. I guess maybe, Barry, because I feel like I need to be encouraged too. And that's why it's so healthy to talk about this topic we talked about resilience. Now we're talking about resistance, and we're being real with each other. It happens. You've gone through some stuff, and I've had some of my challenges too, but we're going to get stronger through this.
Yeah.
The diamond doesn't come overnight. It goes through some pressure. It starts off with some coal. And sometimes we feel like all we're getting in our stocking is a lump of coal. Well, what if that lump of coal goes through a little bit of resistance?
Oh.
What's going to happen on the other end? So yeah, tip and challenge. What do you have for folks?
Well, I think the tip, resistance is real, right? So maybe I'm stating the obvious, but resistance is real. It's going to come. It may come in the form of Murphy. It may come in the form of a sickness. It may come, who knows how it's going to come, but it's coming, right? And so realize that, be prepared, be aware that, yeah, it's coming. Then when it gets there, here's the challenge, I think, is make the decision to create the wins in that situation. Don't let life happen to you. You happen to life.
Yeah.
You happen to life because, again, Henry Cloud, you get what you create, you get what you allow. And I realize that, through this month, I've done a lot more allowing than creating. And so the challenge, I think, is just create, take control, happen to life, make the decisions that are going to push you forward through those difficult times. It's up to you. Look, you're 100% responsible at the end of the day. I believe this is a Grant Cardone thing. You're 100% responsible for everything that happens to you. You put yourself in a situation, you put yourself in a place, you could have done something different. There's always a way to blame yourself for good and bad. And I believe that, right? So put yourself in a position to make a choice to win, to find some victory, find the
Yeah.
good. And especially when it's hard, overcome it. Get
Yeah.
yourself in an environment that's going to help you with that mindset. You can't do it alone, so don't try.
You can't do it alone, but don't. Yeah. Listen, Barry's spot on. Look, you've got support systems around you. Who's part of that support system? Create that environment where you have some support. Even the best quarterback has an offensive line. The best quarterback can't play the game without an offensive line. What's your offensive line? Who do you have around you that can support you as you lead forward? And are you moving forward? Or are you just sitting back waiting? Take action. I wrote down.
If you're not, let me add this component too, because I think you're hitting on something really good here. And if you're not moving forward, if you do feel stuck, maybe it's time to take a look at, who you're spending your time with. I know that can be real tough and real challenging and definitely create some resistance in that. Yeah. But listen, you're gonna become, the bottom line is this, you're gonna become a product of your environment.
Yeah.
So again, who's responsible for your environment? You are.
Yeah. And recognize the best stories are those who've overcome resistance. The best stories. Yeah. So I wrote a couple of things here. Philippians 4:8, I'm a person of faith. I think this is helpful. And we were reminded the other day, Big Mike kind of shared this, right? Philippians 4:8 talks about just dwell and think about the good things around you, pure, lovely, I'm just paraphrasing, but go look it up. Google Philippians 4:8. If you're not a person of faith, at least go look at that. It's such a powerful reminder that there's good things around us. There's always something to be thankful for.
Yeah, definitely.
And that'll kind of put you in the right, like, okay, cool. And maybe you've got the linemen around you. Maybe you have the support system. Even MacGyver in the midst of a mess, right? And I always put MacGyver quotes in here. Right? He finds a way. Maybe you are fully resourced, more resourced than you think. And this is funny. I got to share this. Captain Kirk, right? Did you ever watch Star Trek as a kid?
Oh, come on, man.
Yeah.
Of course.
So back in the day, most of you guys may not even know what Captain Kirk is, but if you don't know who Captain Kirk is, we're glad you're part of this podcast. Welcome. We want this generation to come and be a part of this. Captain Kirk was my dad's favorite TV show was Star Trek. And I used to sit there and watch it with them. And it was kind of cool to see how Kirk was going to get through something. And he'd have a line at the very beginning of the TV show that said this: to boldly go where no man has gone before. Right? We've heard that phrase. It's powerful. And I love how that happened. That was sort of his mission. That was his mindset. That was his why, to boldly go where no man's gone before. Maybe that should be our mission and vision statement, really mission and our why. But that came across apparently through his Starfleet Academy days. And some of you guys saw a little bit of this in the Christopher Pine variant of Captain Kirk a few years back, where he had to face the Kobayashi Maru. Right? Are you familiar with that, Barry?
Yeah.
And the Kobayashi Maru is a training simulation that they give all the Starfleet folks. And it's a no-win situation. It's impossible, right? So they're dealing with all sorts of stuff. Murphy is coming at them 100 miles an hour, and they've got to figure out how they're going to lead everybody on the bridge, everybody on their team through this incredible, impossible challenge. And Kirk, he figures out a way. Now, he didn't do too good the first time, but he goes back and he does the Kobayashi Maru, and he's sitting there as calm as a cucumber, leading his whole team through this, and he gets them through it. Now, I know he did some stuff to make that happen, but he beats the simulation nobody else ever had. Right. And his line, the great line out of this, and I love it. He says, yeah, I don't believe in no-win scenarios. I don't believe in no-win scenarios. And really the question is for all of us. Do you believe in no-win scenarios? Maybe you should be like Captain Kirk and don't believe in no-win scenarios. There's a way through it. Just keep going, keep fighting through. You'll get there. So that's my tip and challenge. So
No,
any
I
final
love
thoughts?
I love that example because, to put some more context to it, the simulation was designed so that you could not beat it.
Yeah.
Right. And so when all this dialogue is going on and when that comment comes out, he's actually in front of the Starfleet command being court-martialed because they said he cheated. Of course, for those of you familiar, Spock was kind of in charge of putting this all together and worked on creating the test and the simulation.
That's right.
And they all thought that the only way he could have beat it was cheated. Well, he did get a little creative, but the point to me and to Paul's point, he found a way, right? He thought outside the box. He said, I don't believe in no-win situations, and he found a way to win. Now, was it, by the textbook? Was it within the rules of engagement? Maybe not, but he still found a way to win and challenge the system, right? So I love that, love the mindset. There's some great examples, in the original series as well as the recent movies. Wow, there's a lot of leadership lessons in there and communication.
That's right. Guys, that's how you break average. This is so powerful. I love this discussion. We could spend more time on this. And here's the fun thing. Barry and I talked about the next season, and we're going to do some really fun things. And Barry, as we do that, do you want to kind of give them a tip in terms of, or a hint in terms of what we're going to do in our next season?
Well, we've mentioned some good movies, good resources earlier in this podcast, and so there's some great examples there. And so we might just spend a little time, let's say, with we got to stick around in the sports genre a little bit. Different. There's some good things in there. I think you mentioned President Lincoln. There's a good. I think Mel Gibson's done a couple, pretty cool things historically about leadership, and there's just some good movies out there that may be worth some additional discussion. So we'll see what that turns into.
So I'm thinking, Barry, we could take people to the movies. So let's have some fun with that. And maybe this whole idea of resistance is something that's going to be a common theme. Maybe there'll be some other common themes too. We'll see. We'll find out. But we would love to hear from you. Visit us at breakingaverage.com. And if you've got a movie that you want us to kind of explore and unpack, we would love to do it. It's going to be fun. We love doing this. And Barry, thank you again for this time. This has been
we're
fun.
Taking requests, huh? Do I understand?
Well, I just want to, I'm curious what folks say. I mean, we can't do them all, but we can at least hear what folks really like. Hey, Paul, Barry, this is the leadership movie. This movie right here, rock my world. I want to know what it is. We could have some fun with that.
Let us know.
All right, guys, thanks again. Join us next week. We've got another great discussion. I can't wait for this one. It's The Matrix. We're going to get into The Matrix, but we're not going to talk about the movie so much. Maybe we'll wait. It'll be fun. Okay. Just join us. So, guys, thanks again. We'll see you.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Breaking Average podcast. If you loved what you heard, please take a moment to subscribe. This show was produced by R Squared Multimedia. All opinions and comments expressed in this podcast are those of the participants and do not reflect the opinions or views of any of the advertisers, producers, or platforms. As you continue your day, what is one action that you can apply from this podcast to your life? Tune in for our next episode as we continue to challenge everyone to break average.